Everybody, this is Gwyneth Isaac speaking here. I've just had my lunch not so long ago, and I was reading that fount of wisdom called the Herald Sun, and there was a news item that was on the front page. 446 babies were rescued from their mothers last year by the Families Department. Now, do you know something? Don't you just love the words they use? Rescued. Not kidnapped, not abducted, rescued. I can tell you for sure, okay, that the Families Department is a child kidnapping racket. That's been fairly well documented. I'm not going to go into the evidence of it here. If you're really interested, go and check out the work of Cliff High at Half Past Human. Go and check out the work of Hetty Johnson at Bravehearts. There's lots of people have documented this, of how the Families Department basically lays claim to children, claims that their mother, for whatever reason, is unable to look after them, makes up a whole lot of spurious BS, and, is not averse to dragging pregnant women through court. Now, I'll tell you fellas something there. When I was 3 months pregnant with my older boy, that's exactly what happened to me. I was a stepmother to my husband's other children. I became pregnant, and the Families Department decided that they would get on our tail. And do you know something? They made up so many lies about my husband. My husband was a godly man. He was absolutely beautiful. He was a Pentecostal minister of religion. And he would just help anybody. Both of us, they made up so much rubbish about us that was simply not true. Please excuse the camera shaking. I have to deal with Tourette's syndrome, and that means that when I get emotional, sometimes I just shake, and I get upset even now, all these years later, every time I think about that. You know what they did? They took us to court. For 6 months, we had hell on earth. They could come up to our house any hour of the day or night with zero warning, zero notice, just because they felt like it. They questioned my stepdaughter without anyone there with them, and they asked her questions that just made her feel embarrassed. And she went to her dad and she said, "Dad, they were asking the most terrible, they were accusing you of the most terrible things to me, and it's not true, Dad." And this young lady is now a grown woman, and I know that if she ever sees this, she would back this up as being true. It just happened that because of all my husband's social work, he was in the family court all the time representing people, helping to keep families together. Okay? When he came to the family court, the judge recognised him. And what happened was they said, the judge said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, oh, well, they made up a bunch of lies about us. They were lies. They were not true. They were just intent on busting our family apart. What happened was the judge called these people to one side and said, can I talk to you for a moment? And they said, well, yes. And the judge basically said, if you continue with this case, you'll be perjuring yourself. I know this man, and I know that what you're saying is just not true. The Families Department dropped the case. But since then, I lost count at about 8 separate occasions where the Families Department has again attempted to interfere in our lives. This has completely destroyed my experience of motherhood. Oh, and by the way, as well as that, did I mention that I was 3 months pregnant when they initially put in their bad time court case to us? I was 3 months pregnant. We had such trouble finding anyone to help us, to help represent us. All of the, any professional, as soon as they heard that it was a Families Department case, they said, no, we don't do those. I'll do a video about that some other time. Anyway, we eventually found a lawyer to help us, and she was a very, very, very fine lady. What happened was, when I was in the last trimester of pregnancy, at 36 weeks, the case came up, and I was carrying heavy legal folders, files, documents, and all of that into court, being 36 weeks pregnant. My placenta was starting to fail. My boy, he didn't gain any weight at all in the last month of pregnancy, and normally a baby doubles its weight in the last month of pregnancy. He was born 4 pounds and 15 ounces. He spent the first 2 weeks of his life in a special care nursery. I would go there every day, frightened that I wouldn't see my baby there. That's the worst feeling. That really is the worst feeling anyone could possibly imagine. To go and know that your baby's, in the hospital, has to be in the hospital because he's, he needs that medical attention, but to go and to always have that nagging thing in the back of your mind, what if they've been there? What if they've taken him? What if they've taken my baby away? And I'd wake up every day and say, come on, let's go. And he'd say, it's all right, I'm 2 steps ahead of you. I've got your cup of tea and your breakfast made. Eat and drink your tea and, get ready, get cleaned up and, get all your nice clothes on. We'll head off to the hospital. He was fantastic. He was a great dad. And he was a lovely husband. He was perfect. Just really, really good husband. And a really good dad. But that was the most awful feeling. But it was the best day, one of the best days of my life, when I got to take my baby home. You know something? When I became pregnant again, I was 3 months pregnant, and we got wind before it happened through my husband's contacts with in the social work area, that the department was on our tail again because they had found out I was pregnant, and that they were going to give us a bad time again. I went into a state of complete panic. I said, Archie, that was my husband's name, Archie, please, we'd bought land in another state. I said, come on, let's go. Let's not hang around and wait for them to come. And he said, yeah, I reckon that's a good idea. We won't hang around and wait for them. So we went off, and I was pregnant, and we went on a massive across Australia road trip. For the sake of protecting the new little baby that was in the womb. And for the sake of protecting the rest of the family too. This is what they're like. Just because they're removing a baby from a new mother doesn't mean to say that the new mother's a bad mother. It's a child kidnapping ring. That's what it is. It's not about child welfare, it's about child kidnapping. Plain and simple. Alright? What else was I going to say? This is what they do. They're taking babies off of their mothers because the mother is a smoker. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, not a reason to take a baby off its mother. There's been so many babies that have been born to smokers, and they've grown up perfectly fine. I'm not saying that smoking's good for you or good for your baby. Far out, that would be crazy, and that's not true. But being a smoker doesn't make you a bad mother. So, it's all about kidnapping. Plain and simple. It's all about child abduction, and for the purposes of pedophilia, basically. The child protection, so-called network, child welfare network, is so infiltrated with pedophiles, it's just scary. Something like, 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 children that have been in state care will be raped before they are of the age of consent. And that's a fairly well-known statistic. Anyway, I better go. You all have a good day, and I shall see you later.